and how to support local Chinese communities. Jack, yes, record. You've done it already. Well done. Well remembered. So Jack, now technical wizardry. Let's see if we can get this video showing.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here today to share some insight on the impact of...
Oh, buffering. Bear with us, people. We did think technology could be an issue, and we proved right straight away.
Happy to be here today to share some insight on the impact of...
Any thoughts, Jack? Sorry, everyone, if you can just wait, bear with us.
If I could ask everybody to stop sharing video, might help with the bandwidth, and I'll have a word with Richard Branson about my Virgin Media. What I'm going to do is go back and try that again. Keep your fingers crossed, okay? We'll get there.
I'm really happy to be here today to share some insight on the impact of...
Oh dear.
Ah, hang on. Just bear with us, and we'll go to plan B. Just bear with me.
We did have plan B. We did say if it doesn't work this way, we've got another way of accessing it.
We have. It'll be fine. It will be fine.
I'm just going to keep smiling so you can all just see my smiley face.
Exactly. I don't know what to do. Right. Bear with me one moment. It's because we're having to play. It's because it's an unusual format, and we're having to play it direct from our Dropbox, so that we're getting double problems with it. Oh, God. Thank you for your patience. It's worth waiting for.
It is.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here today to share some insight on the impact of COVID on the UK Chinese community. Some of this will be applicable to the East Asian community as well as the Southeast Asian community. Now in the UK, I think there's about 400,000 Chinese individuals in the country, and Newcastle is one of the cities with the greatest concentrations of Chinese individuals. I think from the last survey that was done, 1 in 86 individuals in the city were born in China. Now that's probably increased dramatically since then, but that gives you a general idea. A lot of the anecdotes and the research that I've taken, that I'll be sharing today, has been taken from academic research, but also lived experience from myself and my peers, as well as the wider global communities. My name is Lisa Wang, and I run a diversity and inclusion consultancy for businesses who want to foster greater cultural intelligence, and I also run a mental well-being education platform for East Asian individuals. Now, the impact of COVID happened quite early on for many of us in the Chinese community. And first off, I think it would be helpful to state that, as with many communities, to be honest, there is no monolith that kind of represents everyone. In every community, there are subcategories, and the same can be said for the Chinese community. As a whole, though, anyone who had relatives in China or were exposed to Chinese media and kind of stories resulting from that, they were more aware of the outbreak of the virus from earlier on, because family and friends had their holidays already postponed and cancelled because the outbreak had already begun really in early to late January. And so what we can see is a lot of diaspora and international Chinese in the UK, they started self-isolating from much earlier, which means that probably a lot of the impact of COVID that we all have been feeling might have been extended for some of these people. Anxiety levels have probably increased as well. And the impact of COVID on businesses, and especially Chinese-owned businesses, particularly if they were in the hospitality industry, they have been hit tenfold, really. A lot of them started feeling the hit after January, when xenophobia started increasing and people started avoiding Chinatown. And this was probably not helped by the news articles on the BBC and Guardian as the cases were coming into the UK, and each news article was accompanied by a photo of Chinatown in the background in the UK. And there were cases of this in the States as well, where the media started reporting cases from Wuhan. And I think the news article covered a city in the States, but they used a photo of Chinatown from a different area, from a different city, just to kind of make a link to China in particular. And I think a lot of the ramifications of this is that it fueled the flame of xenophobia, right? And we've seen that really impact people's mental health, in particular for the Chinese community. There's been a surge of racism, of aggressions that are both physically violent, like we've seen in the harassment of the individual on Oxford Street. We've also seen countless microaggressions, which are not unique to the Chinese community whatsoever, but we see more of them and more that have not been talked about in the media as well. It happens to my peers quite a lot. And the aggressions also feel like they're fueled by fear and ignorance as well, because friends who are Vietnamese, who are Thai, also get called, Chinese virus, China flu, Kung flu, just because they appear to be East Asian of some sort. And at that point, it feels like the discrimination is more harmful than it is beneficial. And obviously, from an epidemiological point of view, to discriminate on the basis of geography was initially really helpful when you're just thinking about a single city where the virus probably originated from. But when the discrimination becomes international and it just includes everyone who looks like they could pass as a Chinese person to a non-Chinese person, that no longer does any good. And in fact, it does more harm than good. So a lot of this has been going on within the community. And I think this causes more harm because as this culture of discrimination and enabling of violence continues, there are more and more jokes that are made towards Chinese communities, and these jokes are made by very powerful, influential people, ranging from presidents to MPs and celebrities. So this enabling just consistently promotes the racialization of these people. And the fact is that the power dynamics are imbalanced, so that there's no one really available to speak out against it. And in fact, there are many cultural barriers against speaking out, which is not going to apply to everyone, but as a whole, there are cultural values in place that promote other ways of dealing with conflict, and they don't usually involve calling out certain actions or releasing statements. And in fact, there is no clear organizing body that represents the Chinese community in powerful ways such as this. And so every time that there is a discriminatory action, that impact just gets absorbed by the community, and they feel it. They feel it in their health, they feel it in their mental well-being, they feel it in how little they belong anymore. So that's something to be aware of as a contributor to the anxiousness and the otherness that a lot of people in this situation are feeling at the moment. It compounds with a lot of identity-based issues, a lot of people who identify as British, but who are also ethnically East Asian. During the time of COVID, they've realized that whether or not they belong is no longer an individual personal choice. It's about how others actually decide to perceive you. And that has been an interesting challenge for them, especially ranging from migrants. Some of my American friends who've moved here, they felt very unwanted and they've been told to go back to their own homes. some of my international Chinese friends have been told the same. And, maybe they would want to go back home, but the virus has not really enabled them to go back. So you're feeling very displaced at this moment in time. So the result of all of these stresses can manifest very differently for individuals. And one of the dangers is that if it's not managed adequately enough at the onset, that patients will end up repressing a lot of stresses until the point of reaching primary care, at which point the intervention will be much more difficult to deliver. So these are some of the challenges. This is a very general overview. I'm happy to answer more questions about it. Feel free to get in touch if you have anything in particular that you'd like to discuss. The generalization, so each individual is going to respond differently, but I hope this gave you an idea of some potential factors that are worth bearing in mind. And thank you so much for listening.
Okay, so we got there with the video. Well done, Jack. Technology was excellent. Eventually, we got there eventually. Lisa, that was a great video talking about some of the issues that have been experienced. I really appreciate your input. If Lisa, what I can't tell is if Lisa, have you got your video on again now?
Yes.
Fantastic. There you are. Brilliant. So thank you so much for the for what you've said there, your contribution to that. And I suppose there's two questions I wanted to ask as a result of that is, what do you think is the key issue to consider about your community and culture? What's the key thing that we need to think about with the impact of COVID, or about moving forward from where we are now?
So I think one of the first biggest factors to consider is the fact that there's a huge variance within what we think of as the Chinese community. There is no one Chinese community. And when you're looking at the healthcare you need to provide, you need to look at the person, the individual, the community that they live in, their lifestyle, their age group. Because within the Chinese community, when we say that, they could be first-generation immigrants, aged 20 or so. Their problems might be entirely different. They might need more linguistic help in that regard, and they might prefer more traditionally Chinese interventions. If you're looking at second, third generation immigrants who've lived in Newcastle all their lives, they might be very amenable to how healthcare is delivered here, but they just need more demonstrations of culturally competent behavior and showing that, they understand some of the context that these immigrants might be operating within. So in general, just not judging too much at the outset, and then undergoing a process of learning, inquiring, asking the individual to guide them as to what needs to be done. That's one of the main things, I think. And the second probably key issue is probably the impact of racial microaggressions, which we don't really talk about amongst the East Asian community in particular. The principle is very much the same across many BAME communities. So we all suffer from it in some degree or another, but the impact of these might manifest differently amongst these groups. So being aware of this kind of discrimination that we've seen, just showing awareness probably goes a really long way to making sure that they get the healthcare that they need.
Yeah, and I think, the good points, really good points you've raised there, Lisa. So, we say from Haref as well that there's, there isn't just one community. There's not one South Asian. There's not one Chinese community. Everyone's very different within that community, and you need to actually speak to people as individuals. There may be issues that affect everyone, or most of them, or some of them. And you can make generalizations, but actually it is the individual that's important, isn't it? So, and also I think that what we've seen with Black Lives Matter and the impact of COVID disproportionately, the BAME people, has really highlighted that discrimination and increased, unfortunately, targeting and hate crime, as you've spoken about. So I think they're really, really important issues that you've raised there, Lisa. So thank you. And the other thing, I suppose, what I think would be really useful, because we've got lots of services here who want to work better or delivered better or deliver differently, should I say, is how do health services need to change to make them easier to use for your community? That's a massive topic. But if there was one thing that you think about as of what should a service do, or start thinking about differently to make it easier for your community to use that service?
So at the moment, I feel that there needs to be better culturally kind of sensitive services throughout the entire chain. So anything that can be done that demonstrates that you serve this community, that you are maybe literate in BAME services in general, probably already makes, it kind of narrows the gap a bit. It makes your service, your organization much more accessible, whether that's visual representation on your websites and your to listing the services that you provide and providing context, case studies, things that show that you've engaged with the community. That's probably one of the main things. And then in practice, again, around person-based assessments. I think one of the areas that our community would really appreciate more support on is mental health and the kind of peri-mental health aspects, particularly around awareness and bringing that awareness to the community, and being understanding as well that that might change, that might manifest differently in their lives. For example, there's been a lot of research that shows that for the Chinese community, mental health manifests more psychosomatically. So they don't actually say to themselves oppressed every day, but they might feel extremely, extremely tired and low energy, and they might not even realize that mental health is a problem for them. So just maybe creating more services around this area, that would be really helpful. And also understanding that interventions might look differently. I was taking on some feedback from my community and also from my parents who are from a different generation. And they shared some of their insight. And they said when they grew up in China, they grew up in communities, they grew up in compounds that were mainly inhabited by people from the same companies or organizations. So everyone lived together and everyone worked together. So there was a natural community around it. And then they had health interventions specifically for that compound also. And if people have come from that background, then they might appreciate more community-led interventions as opposed to one-on-one based talking therapies, as an example. But this can also vary, being sure not to make too many assumptions is probably the biggest thing that we can do. And I think that is the paradox as well of unconscious bias training, and a lot of this kind of stuff that we're seeing is that some studies have shown that the more unconscious bias training you do, the more likely you are just to remember the bias and not to learn how to work around it. But just be open to what biases can be, and then step back and then listen to the individual. One example that I can give you was my friend going to a therapist in London. She's Cantonese, and she went to a therapist talking about her childhood. And before she really had chance to talk about herself, the therapist said, "Oh, yes, I've had a very strict parenting. Yes, you had a tiger mum," because that was a stereotype. And my friend said, "No, I had a very happy childhood. Thank you very much." And conversely, it can work differently. So yeah, just more awareness about that. Don't rush to make diagnoses or assumptions and lead the individual through it. So those are some of the first tips I can give.
No, they're really good ones, and I think really useful things. Some practice people can start thinking about. And your issue around mental health, I mean, it's the key issue, I think, across the country, but I think even more so for BAME communities. It was the key issue in the Haref Network. They fed back, this is the thing that people are most worried about, because it's not just about, it's about the stress, anxiety. And you talked about in your video there about how actually for Chinese community, they've been experiencing the impact of COVID for longer because of where it first appeared. So actually they've been living with that stress and anxiety for a lot longer time, and it's something I hadn't thought about. So that was really that's a good point to have made. And I think we need to all be looking about what we're going to do about mental well-being, and not talking about just mental health but well-being, because people don't always understand or acknowledge mental health. So excellent points, Lisa. Is there just one last thing you might want to say to everyone here, because we'll then go on to the next video, where one other thing that you've given the opportunity you'd like to say to people about anything?
I'd say that this is an ongoing process. So we're all just trying to find solutions. There's no judgment from anyone about any effort that organizations are making towards improving access. I myself am also trying to develop resources in this area, so feel free to connect, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share whatever information I can, but I'm really encouraged to see these events happening as well, and questions I'm happy to answer as well.
Okay, well, I'm delighted we've finally got you to talk, because Lisa got in touch with me, I think just as COVID was happening, and I was like, I'm sure, I really was keen to actually get Lisa to talk at this event, so I'm so pleased we finally got you here. Just so everyone knows, I'm going to be sending a biography round of all the speakers with the contact details on, and websites. Lisa's also developed some excellent resources about working with Chinese communities, and translations around mental health, wasn't it? So that will all be coming round to everyone eventually, probably tomorrow. So anyway, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been really, really useful. And on that note, we're going to go back to the technical wizard, which is Jack. And we're going to bring on the next video, which is Gabriela from Riverside Community Health Project. And she is going to be talking about Romanian community and access to health services. So let's see how smoothly this video goes.
Just talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
Okay, so this was my great idea of that we'd have videos and speaking to make it more interactive, but I've just made Jack's life hell. And I'm gonna have to buy him a load of chocolates, I think, or something suitable.
No, it's all good. It really is.
Yeah.
Just bear with me one moment, please.
And if there are things, if you were watching that and you're thinking I didn't quite capture all of it, you will be able to get the recording of this to be able to watch this first hour again, so you can pick bits out of it again, or any top tips or anything you thought I need to remember that.
My name is Gabriela. I'm a family project worker for Riverside Community Health Project.
Can't see it.
I am a Romanian national. I came in this country 20.
Just bear with me one moment, then I'll see what I can do to sort this.
Just pull through, even so the... Hi.
If you can't show the video, we'll just do the audio.
Yeah, it might be something to do with the format here. Just bear with me one moment.
If we can just hear it, that's fine.
No, just let me go to plan B. And it should work. Just give me a minute.
We will get there, folks. We will hear Gabriela talking.
Of course you will.
There she is.
Just don't panic me.
Hi, hello. My name is Gabriela. I'm a family project worker for Riverside Community Health Project. I am Romanian national. I came in this country 20 years ago. Luckily, I spoke the English language, and it was quite easy for me to just pull through. Even so, the system was quite different even for me. But let's not forget, most of the Roma Romanian community coming in this country, they are facing the language barrier. The interpreting service in Romania is kind of like non-existent, so the people are not aware that actually they can access an interpreting services for most of the public services in United Kingdom. Then after this, obviously the NHS system, welfare benefits, public services in general, they're just totally different, like system-wise from Romania. The people are not aware that here they must register to the NHS. They must register, for with a GP, with a dentist, themselves and their children. They have to do the school application right away when arrive in this country. The system is totally different. Let's talk about it, for example, the health visitors. Health visitors, they do not exist in Romania. So when the health visitor is coming for a home visit to the newly arrived Romanian families here in England, and knocking at the door, the families, they thought, oh my God, it's the social services, they are coming here to take off our children. They are not aware about the fact that what the health visitor is doing, so the 0 to 5, 0 to 19 services, NHS does not exist in Romania, so they're quite concerned about. So these are the main barriers faced when they're coming in England: language barrier and NHS welfare public service, system totally different. Luckily, the services, interpreted services, exist in this country, and also the charities as Riverside Community Health Project were coming in place. At the moment when they found out about our services, and also that it is a Romanian speaker available, they're so grateful, because they're always concerned about language barrier. This is where we come in place. Of course, in Romania, they do have like obligation to get registered to a family doctor, which here is called a GP. But then it's like you can go there when as required. Health visiting is just not something that is like compulsory in Romania. Does not exist, and the thing. So it is quite a struggle for the people, coming in here to go through to all these things. Language barrier, different kind of system. Also, even the school applications. Then you go through to ask to help them, fulfill all this, requests, and respect all the regulation, because they are not aware of it. And but thankfully, United Kingdom have this amazing service in place, interpreting services, and also charities available to help them, to help them go through all this kind of like the problems, let's say, because they're kind of problems, you need to advise them, to talk through them about all these services, about all this system, language barrier. But thankfully, the Romanian community, they're just extremely close together. They like to help each other, they like to advise each other, and also the word of mouth, which is very important. And like this, this work comes in place, you know, different kind of like minority groups, they get together, they start to go to school, they start to learn the language, they start to learn the rules and regulation, which is fantastic. And you know, the Roma Romanian community is so grateful, so grateful to the NHS system, to the public services, to the HMRC, to the welfare, because they offer them, you know, this help, you know, just help them with everything they can and facilitate their integration in this country. And because of this, the Roma Romanian community is so grateful for feeling integrated, for from the cultural point of view, from social point of view, you know, they just feel like being part of this country. And thanks to the system, the United Kingdom, you know, the system is just fantastic. They are just so grateful that they feel like part of them, part of this country. It's just fun. It's like a kind of teamwork. Teamwork is just fantastic. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Gabriela. That was really useful as well. Are you on video now? Yes, you are. And unmuted. Brilliant. I know, Gabriela, that you had some more information you wanted to share with people following the video. So did you want to just go ahead and talk that through, and then maybe time for a question at the end? Are you happy to do that?
Yeah, that's fine. Just a few bits about the you know, Roma, you know, Gypsy, you know, families, you know. I don't know if anyone knows about their history. You know, they have arrived in Romania in 1385, so you can see we have a long history together, you know, Roma Romanian. I mean, it's sharing the culture, the tradition, school, playing together, being neighbors, you know. We're kind of all part of Romania, regardless if you are Roma or Romanian. And then also they arrive in England in 15th century, you know. And I don't know if you know, but many gypsies and travelers served as soldiers in the First World War, and the medal rolls give further evidence of their participation, including a number of military medals, and at least one Victoria Cross, which is fantastic. It's part of the history. And Romania has the largest Roma population of 3.3%. Also in England, estimated by the European Commission 2018, they suggest there are 225,000 Roma that live in the United Kingdom, which amounts of 0.36 of the entire population. And also historically, Roma from Romania have preferred to migrate to Romance language countries, which is France, Italy, and Spain. In recent years, the UK has received a larger number of Roma migrants, and this is because they have described overwhelmingly positive experience of life in the UK. They felt that the UK offered better opportunities and a better quality of life compared to other countries. And talking about the Roma community, just probably you don't know about it, you didn't know about it, or me either, I just found out. You know, some of the famous celebrities with the Roman origin is Michael Caine, Charlie Chaplin, Elvis Presley, Pablo Picasso, and Rita Hayworth. Isn't this just amazing? It's just, you know, you think like, oh my God, you know, you just find out that, ooh, that's fantastic, isn't it? It's something like you find out because, you know, history, we all have a history, isn't it? We just all like to work together. In Romania, this is the thing, Roma, Romanian, you know, I have friends, I have, you know, family friends, the neighbors, I'll keep in touch, and the thing, they're just fantastic, you know. So Roma community is extremely family orientated, and also this community, they help each other very much, and they're quite religious, you know. Orthodox or Pentecostal, they get together, you know, to the religion services on Sundays, or sometime during the weeks they get together just, you know, to catch up about, for example, like women groups, you know, having a coffee and also having a prayer. You know, there's very religious, and they also talk about which family is in need. what can we do for them, who can contact to help them out, and the thing, which obviously there you are, Riverside comes into place. I'm there because they're happy because I'm a Romanian speaker, and that's the idea. The only thing we have to do is just work together, isn't it? Just breaking down the barriers and open the way, to the trust, just being together. And I don't want to keep it too long, okay? It's just my last words, Vicky, I promise, okay? So I want to end with this quote by Kofi Annan. We may have different religions, different languages, different color skin, but we all belong to one human race, which is so real. I'm Romanian, English, Chinese, Italian, South African, all of us, regardless of who we are or where we are coming from, we are all one. We are just interlinked together. It's just we are kind of like one big, large family. And this is what I believe, what we should just go further. Just contacting with each other, knowing each other, sharing the culture, because in the end, we are all humans. We are all one. And that's me. That's it. Thank you for listening to me.
No, well, don't disappear yet. That was really useful. Some of that history is really useful, just to give some context about Romanian culture. It's important that people know that. And I think one of the things, I love that quote by Kofi Annan that you brought in as well. And I think it's that thing around being willing to learn, isn't it? Willing to learn about different cultures and feeling the confidence of feeling safe to ask questions. And service deliveries, or if you're a worker, it's about feeling safe to do that and know that people actually are happy to talk about their needs and culture, but it's about how you do that, how you ask the questions as well, isn't it? And so that they feel included. There's not a power imbalance, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we have Vicky knows about, we have like a woman group, okay? So we are working with the Czech and Slovak, we are working with Roma, Romanian community, and we just get together, and we talk about it. Okay, what is the issue? What would you think can help the community to go further? What do you need to find out about it? And that was the point where we developed the health visitor leaflet, just to make the people aware what they do, why they do this, and why it is necessary to keep in touch with them. So we together with 019 services, NHS, this leaflet. And the main thing I think which is important on the leaflet, we have a Roma Romanian family on it, their photo with their children and the husband, because they're well-respected leaders in their community. And the thing, when the people seen that leaflet, said, oh my God, I know that family is already kind of like, yes, I like it. I trust this family. I like this leaflet. And they open up and we talk about health visitors coming there to check your child and the thing. This was a fantastic opportunity because we managed to break trust issue barriers, which was very important for the families. And then we're there. Now, most of them, they know what the health visitor is doing. They know, why it is good for them to let them in your life and to talk about it. It's just, but all these things, you need to take it step by step by step, because it's a taboo issue with the officials like NHS, doctors, police, But I'm proud to say we are getting there. And they're so happy to talk with NHS officials, with the midwives, with the police officer. So we get there. But it's just fantastic because the end result is just a fantastic end result. They trust, the officials, the public services. This is the main thing I think the community should work towards.
I think a really good topic that you brought up there is that the health visitors leaflet came from actually the families themselves not understanding and wanting to know more. So it was a grassroots led piece of work, and actually they actually fed directly into that leaflet about what they thought was useful in there, and they helped translate it into words and phrases that made sense for their community. And that's why that leaflet did work and was a success, is because it came from them, the issue came from them, the design and the solution came from them. So therefore it actually went around the community and people believed in it and trusted it. But it takes time. It takes a long time to do bits of work like that. There is no quick fix solution to these things. You have to put the endurance is needed, isn't it, to make it happen? So all of
Yeah.
those things are really, really useful. Thank you, Gabriela. We are going to need to now move on to the next video because we've had quite a lot of information, really useful information from you there. I really appreciate your time doing the video and for providing a bit of history as well for us there, Gabriela. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to now move on to our next speaker, well, our next video. So I'm pleased to say we've now got Salha from Teakisi, I always keep pronouncing it wrong, Teakisi, British-Rwandan, exploring culture from a wider African perspective, particularly in terms of women. So over to the video. I'm sure it will sort itself out here.
Just give me a moment.
The cookies are coming up. I will send round in the resources the leaflet that Gabriela talked about. There's a couple of resources that's developed at Riverside, and they'll go round in the resource pack for this meeting as well. So you will get to see them.
Just bear with me one moment, guys.
No, you're doing a brilliant job there, Jack, under difficult circumstances.
It all worked perfectly in rehearsal.
It did, yes.
Just give me one moment and you will get I really should have staff for this, you know.
Hiya, I'm Salha Kaitesi and I'm the founder of Teakisi and Beauty of Rwanda. Teakisi is a platform that I created to empower African women from Africa and around the world. And Beauty of Rwanda, which is social enterprise geared to economically empower women and girls of Rwanda. I would like to address one of the key issues that I think really impacts on me and my community as an African woman, is that we are not judged according to our own individual merits, and this has obviously been a result from what the media continues to portray African women as, and that is backwards, not educated. Basically, we're all put in one little one basket, if you like. This narrative continues to impact not just my life, but the lives of other African women locally here in the northeast of England, the entire UK and the world at large. Why do I think this is a key issue? It's because we are not being given opportunities to actually advance or even given a chance to show what we are capable of doing because of this narrative. When I arrived in this country, I was 17. I spoke English. I went to university. I have a degree. I also have a master's degree. I've been able to create platforms that not only empower one single person, but hundreds and hundreds of people, especially like communities in Rwanda or around the world when it comes to Teakisi, with a readership of over 1 million people. So to me, I would think that I'm actually, I have achieved a lot in my my sector as a blogger, but because of who I am and because of the narrative that usually is out there about people like me, then we are not given the we're not given the merit, or you say the recognition that we deserve. And this applies to every single African woman. We have women in our communities, our community here, who are entrepreneurs, who are, who are great cooks, who are great, who are teachers, who are university lecturers and all, but you will not hear them. You will never hear them being mentioned. It's like they don't exist. And I know with the current Black Lives Matter movement that's going on after the George Floyd incidents, a lot of things are being, a lot of organizations are trying to address the issues within themselves, in their boards, and every now I get surprised when I see like adverts on TV and they include people like me, which at first wouldn't be possible. It's a good thing, it's a way moving forward, but I don't think it's enough, because I somehow sometimes think, are they just doing it for the sake of trying to appear as people who are addressing the issue, or do they really mean it? We do understand that, yes, we're not always going to be the best at what we're doing, because we're just exactly like any other person. But I think it's important that within our community, we're also given the opportunities to actually prove to others that we can do the things that anybody else can do. The only difference being that we have a different skin color to the rest of them. So I think changing the narrative and actually empowering people within our communities would be a key role to do, to actually advance, and it won't happen with with myself or other people within our community. We need to all stand up and actually do something about it, because I think without that, then it will continue to be a problem. That, I would say, is one of the key issues that I think I find in my community, within our cultures. When it comes to health services, it says, because I find that a lot of the things, I think when it comes to health services and what can be done to make things easier for our community and make things a lot more accessible for our community, would be to stop thinking that every person from a country that is in Africa is actually, we are the same. No, we're not. Africa is a continent, and it has 54 countries, and all those countries actually have their own cultures, beliefs, languages sometimes, and lots more languages. So I think number one thing that the health service should do is to stop grouping us all into one basket, because just because we come from Africa, it doesn't necessarily mean that we all experience the same things. Just like you understand, it's like if I wanted to come to you, if you live in the UK and I just said, oh, he's from Europe, you would definitely tell me, no, I'm from England, because you know that if you're from England or the UK, you're going to be completely different from someone who's from Norway. So why doesn't the health service or any other services around put people into different, why don't they just say this person is coming from there? And I think that's where you will address the language barriers, to try and understand where every person is coming from, that there might be actual cultural issues there might be religious issues that are making it impossible for the community to move ahead or to access your health centers. And also a lot of beliefs within the countries from Africa that always will hinder a lot of the things health-wise being done. So I would say that to try and improve health services within the community is to actually, first of all, think about the patient as an individual. And once you've done that, think about the country they're coming from. And do not forget, a lot of us actually come from countries which speak English, French, and Swahili, so we could be multilingual. So do not just assume because we come from an African country, it means we're actually not educated, we don't speak the languages that are there. And also take into account when you're trying to, when the patients come to you, that they've come from difficult situations. It could be conflict, and to them, telling you that they probably come, they come, let's say, I'm just going to give an example of Ethiopia. Them telling you they come from Ethiopia and speak a certain language might be a problem to them, because they do not want other members of their community to know they come from that particular country or group who speak that particular language, because they're being persecuted for another reason. So always ask yourself, other than just the local languages that are spoken, there are people in Ethiopia, they'll speak Italian, they'll speak French, they'll speak English too. So do not just highlight the native languages, because others will not want to speak the native languages in case they're being branded, or persecuted for whatever reason. So in order to address a lot of the difficult situations that we face with when it comes to health, and also all the other problems that I've mentioned before in our community, is please treat us as individuals. Yes, we're all human beings. If you came to me, I wouldn't say all of you come from Newcastle, it means you all behave like this. We're individuals, we have our own problems, and at the same time, we also have our own achievements, and we are well spoken, and we are talented, and we can do anything. Anyway, I hope this helps. Thank you. Bye.
That was great, Salha. Absolutely, we all can do anything. I really like that. So have you got your video and there you are. Thank you so much. Some great issues you raised. Great and nice seeing yourself on video.
It's the first time I've watched it, so I was
it's excellent. You raised some excellent points. I think the very fact as well, I think it's an interesting thing to say, ask people what their preferred choice of language is rather than what's their native language.
Yeah.
What a great tip. Immediately, just if you do that, you're actually then communicating with them in the language that fits best with them, because you don't know what their life journey's been and what their needs may be. And the issues you've raised there around not seeing everyone as one big group, which Lisa talked about as that's everyone's, when it comes to it, everyone's an individual and has individual needs, and we need to go and think about and talk to people on that. So just in terms of a couple of questions. So, what is there one key thing about your community or culture that's the most that's important that you want health service to think about in terms of when they deliver services? Is there one key thing apart from the language or asking about their individual needs? Is there something else that you would like to add in?
Yeah, there's something Lisa mentioned, and it's first of all, actually, I would like to apologize. My voice is going a bit funny because I've been having a cold for the past few days.
Oh no.
No, it's not COVID. So Lisa mentioned something about mental health. One huge factor in our community is anything to do with illness, and mental health is key. It's taboo, so do not be so you will have services there for, let's say, BME communities or Black communities or African communities, and you won't even get a patient turn up. That does not mean we do not suffer from mental health. We do, but because of taboos and I guess the discrimination or the way people look at people, anyone who's suffering from mental health issues is such a big deal. So a lot of our members will either first consult traditional healers, and then after that they'll probably do a bit of witchcraft, and after that they will go to the churches and the mosques. So they'll go all around every other sector, and then by the time they come to you, they're probably dying. And that is because they've waited for that long. there's the whole issue of, you know, we are strong, we shouldn't show a weakness to any single person, so it affects us and it affects even our children. But we need to try and stop that from happening. We need to make everyone feel welcome and actually talk to individuals. They might not come to you straight away, but make it, give them opportunities where they could, you know, let's say we're sitting in a group and you say we are offering mental health services. They might not turn up, but show them that there is a way they could actually communicate to you without everybody else knowing. Because to them, it might help if they know maybe they can send that email without, you know, and then it's going to be like between you two. So that eventually opens up, I think will open up more doors and more people accessing health services. But I do know that taboo when it comes to mental health is huge.
And yeah, like, I totally agree with you there, Salha. And I must have just seen in the notes from Gabriela about for Roma, Romanian mental health is a real taboo issue. And I know Lisa also said it's not something that's recognised. You don't talk about having mental health.
No.
So one of the things I'm getting a lot of contact from is from services that deliver mental health, saying we need to engage better, and what should we do, how do we talk, how do we tell them about our services? And I always say you start with asking them, not telling them that you're a mental health service, because you're immediately not going to get them there. It needs to be something around well-being. Actually start with what is your issue. Let's hear about the issue and how we can help, and then look at how do you deliver the service or something that suits them. Because they're not going to come along to something that says this is a mental health project.
That's absolutely true. It's always best to ask what people need, but do not assume that what you're giving them is what they need, because we see that a lot with the white savior kind of discussions that are going around. I'm sure you've heard about them, where people attend villages, let's say a village in Africa or some, and they think, oh, they need a church, but they never ask them what they actually needed. So I think it's always best to talk to the community, find out what they want from this, and then go from there. But as you said, you might put up those services and no one will turn up because of the taboos, the factors that are already there.
And the other thing I've been saying as well is, just because you have a service to deliver doesn't mean that's the service that individual, that community want to engage with, particularly at the moment, particularly in COVID-19, when there's pandemic on, there's people are trying to survive, they've suffered bereavement, they've lost money, they're worried about the jobs. So actually engaging with specific health services isn't the priority. Surviving on a day-to-day basis. So trying to engage around lots of issues isn't really where people are at, I think, at the moment. That's what I'm getting a sense of. So it's about delivering something that's useful at this point in time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like through networking with my community, I found as COVID started, a lot of them, yes, they were employed, or they were getting something in, so money wasn't really a big issue for most of them. It was the contact. And then I started thinking, why don't we do like coffee meetups? It might be online, but actually people need that contact of seeing somebody else and talking to them. So it might, you might not need even something huge. It might be just a simple thing as a phone call, and that's all they need. So we need really to listen to the community and find out from them what exactly that they need before we think that, okay, now we've opened up these centers, you should come and access them. Look, we've given you all this, and why are you not coming? But no, that's not how it's going to work. Well, it doesn't work that way. At least I know from my people, they're not coming.
And that's what I've been hearing as well. So it's good that you're reinforcing that as well. I mean, is there one last thing, because I'm just aware of time? Is there one last thing, anything else you wanted to share at the moment?
I'm organizing. This is about health, and I think it's perfect. On the 17th of October, during Black History Month, Teakisi is organizing a a Teakisi Woman Talk. This is the second year that we're doing it. Last year it was face-to-face, but obviously with the current pandemic, we're not able to do that. But it's going to be online. Maybe I could share the link. I'll share the link in the chat if you can register. It's going to be online. We're talking about, well, the theme for this year is the narrative of the strong Black woman preventing good healthcare. What a time to actually talk about this, because I know as a Black woman that with our culture beliefs and what our community expects to do and behave prevents a lot of us from actually accessing that health service. But vis-a-vis some people, you know, there are reports that they access, let's say, the hospitals, and they're being mistreated because they think they should, you know, man up kind of thing. Like, because you're Black, oh, you shouldn't, you're man. No, you can deliver without an epidural because you're strong enough kind of thing. So it's a time to have these conversations, however difficult they might be. But I think it's really, really important that we actually got time to speak about them and then learn from each other. So I will definitely share the link. It would be nice to have you all attend.
So just that event, it's for anyone to attend because you've got different speakers
yeah, we've got
on the
four
day.
speakers on the day, and they will be focusing. One's from a Black women's community, another one is a mental health doctor, another one is a GP, and another one is I think, was it maternity, is within the Newcastle maternity ward. So we're having people from mental health, but also the community to share their experiences, but also to highlight what problems we face and how we could solve them.
So I know that the information you've given, I've got the information for that. So that will go out in the resources, but it's also in the Haref Bulletin with the speakers. And you sent me the information.
Yeah, we did.
So that will be going in the Haref Bulletin. If everyone's signed up to the Haref Bulletin, you will get that. I think it's in the next week or 2 weeks. And I will send it out in the resources as well. And it's an opportunity to learn more. I think one of the key things we're learning here is you can't just know about all cultures and every culture and everything about them, but you need to kind of just start to learn a little bit about different cultures.
Yeah.
So by going to your network event or coming at this Allies meeting, it's a way of learning little bits and understanding some of the barriers and difficulties, not necessarily becoming an expert in the culture, because no one can be. Even someone from that culture isn't an expert.
No, I know. I get to learn a lot about Rwanda every other day.
So I will send that around to people, so that's great. So thanks ever so much for that, Salha. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. That's great. We've now had the speeches and some of the questions from everybody. We are, just as a roundup, I think something that's worth thinking about that came through there is about don't make assumptions about different groups and different communities. People are individuals as well as being part of a community and a different culture, and that culture is varied within a culture. There's subsets and different ways that people interpret it. I think also, if you're going to do engagement, you need to start with something that's important to that group, the particular group you're talking to, and work from there. Give something that they need rather than something that you wanted to deliver, because that's the way to actually engage and actually make a difference. It's really important to do that. And I think finally is word of mouth and trust is really important about how you actually work with some of the more the seldom heard groups. Is actually that word of mouth and trust is really, really important about how you do that. I think then we're going to wrap that up at this point, and we're going to have a 5-minute break. I really want to thank the speakers for their input. I think it's been really, really valuable. I hope everyone's learned a little bit from that. Jack, you can stop recording.